Hey Samford fans, welcome into this week's edition of Inside Athletics. I'm John McAfee, joined by head soccer coach Todd Yelton. Coach, as always, I appreciate you making some time.
Good to be here.
Well, first, I want to start by talking about the big milestone that you reached this past weekend with your 1-0 win over Western Carolina, 300th career win for you. I know it's obviously a milestone that means a lot, and like you said, it means you've been doing it a long time, but it also means you've been doing it at a pretty high level for a long time. Talk a little bit about what that honor means to you.
It means I hired good assistants. That's what it means. I don't know, I was thinking about that when I came here and started out in this. The 300 would not have been a number that I would have ever imagined, right? I didn't even know it until you guys interviewed me at the end of it. It's something to be thankful for, and all the kids I've got to meet and people I've got to work with, and got to work at two great institutions, mainly here at Samford. I don't know, I guess I'm thankful and humbled by it, and probably as much as anything surprised by it too, right? So, but there's a lot of people had a lot to do with that outside of me. In the 300 wins, that's, like I said, hired good assistants.
You also had the Shauna's house game this past weekend. That's a huge game for you guys every year. I know the end result of the game wasn't what you wanted with the late equalizer for ETSU, but a lot of money was raised, and overall on that side of things, it was a really successful night.
Yeah, I think a good portion of the Yelton family was happy that night. Jay and Matt to get the late goal there. Mom and Dad, because it's a tie with their boys, which I've always thought Jay's their favorite anyway. But the overall thing of raising money to help people in Ukraine, and just how this community loves my family and supports our family, and how this community is now helping a community that's thousands of miles away, and in a very, very difficult time. So it was a really great thing, and I'm so thankful for those people who have come along and partnered with us and given and supported, because we couldn't do it without them.
Let's talk about kind of the big picture and just the season up to this point. It's been a little bit of a strange year for you guys, for sure. Some ups and downs, and it just seems like watching the games, there have been a lot of games where you guys have been the better team, but you haven't been able to get those 3 points. You really haven't had a lot of balls bounce your way this year. I mean, how have you viewed the season to this point?
Well, I felt like last year every ball bounced our way, right? I would not say that about this year, right? We've had some unfortunate things happen as far as in closing moments of games. Both some of those that we can control and some of those that we can't control. All you can do is keep pressing forward, right? And I do think we have a very good team. I think we're starting to pass the ball better and find get ourselves in good looks and that sort of stuff. Kids are working hard. It's a good group of kids, or high character kids, and part of it is our own expectations, right? I mean, if you really look at it, there's a lot of teams that would take our record. We've only lost 3 all year. It's just, for us, the standards are a bit higher than that, unless Chat falters here at the end, then we won't have an opportunity to win 9 in a row. But as I've told the kids, 2 things. 8's a pretty good run, if that's the way it works out. And the second part of it is, if it wasn't for the streak, and you give any NCAA student athlete the opportunity to win the regular season, win the conference tournament, they'll, especially at our level, they'll take the conference tournament every time, because you go from one of like 340 to one of 64, and that's a whole different deal.
One of the other things that I think has affected not just you guys a lot, but the entire college soccer landscape is the rule change that there is no overtime this year. Games are ending after 90 minutes. The amount of ties is up significantly. I mean, how have you kind of viewed that rule change in college soccer?
Well, it's a lesson, and you don't know what you don't know, right? And I was actually for the rule change, because a lot of the games still ended up in ties. Never imagined that there would be such a massive increase in ties, though, because like if you look at it, last year, I mean, we're up from 10% of games ended in a tie. Last year, we're well over 20. On a Sunday, you're close to 25%. I mean, we still have games to play, and we've already doubled. And I think if you looked across even the SoCon, the number of ties compared to last year. But it's a very different mentality for the kids. When you get to the 10-minute mark, you're not thinking I have this plus overtime. You're thinking I have 10 minutes. And the other piece of it is that coaches can manipulate the game through substitutions or or all that kind of stuff, and make it slower, and et cetera, et cetera. So I didn't really have the foresight to think that all of a sudden this number would jump. And I do think, I think there are probably several games, if we'd gone to overtime, would have gone a little bit better for us, But we could have easily, gone to some of the games and it bounced the other way. But I hope that the committee will consider bringing back overtime, and whether that'll happen, I don't know. I was on the NCAA committee for the championships, and I can't imagine picking 64 teams with because you're going to ultimately see what does a tie mean. I'm not really sure we ever knew what a tie meant, good or bad. Is there a good tie, bad tie? I don't know. So it's going to be pretty complicated for that group when they get there and start doing the seeding and everything.
Hard to believe, but this is the last weekend of the regular season already. The season kind of flew by this year, but obviously it's a big one for you guys. And you mentioned, the rivalry with Furman. You've got Wofford, and you've still got a chance to control your own destiny as far as getting that 2 seed and being able to host the quarterfinals and the semifinals at home next weekend. So, it's a big weekend for you guys.
It's massive, and you could throw records out when us and Furman play, right? It's not, it's never easy. They have some really good attacking pieces. They're a well-coached team. They're difficult to break down. And they have Neva Gaither, who was the player of the year last year, and she can hurt you in a hurry. Playing there is a really difficult place to play in Furman. They generally have a good crowd and good support, so that'll be big. And then we'll bounce back and play Wofford, who has played everybody really tight. Actually, have picked up some quality wins. They got a win over ETSU and a draw against Furman. Unless some crazy things happen and we can win the next 2, obviously we're probably not going to win the league. But I tend to think that everybody still gets up to play Samford. I think it's a game that matters to everyone else in this league when they play us, and we appreciate the respect, but every once in a while we wish it was just a little bit easier, maybe. But it never is. It's never easy.
Well, Coach, I appreciate your time as always, and hopefully we're hosting some postseason soccer next weekend.
We'll do our best.
It's head coach Todd Yelton. I'm John McAfee. Samford on the road, at Furman on Friday, at Wofford on Sunday. Both games can be seen on ESPN+. That'll do it for this edition of Inside Athletics, presented by Alabama Power.